Okay, now we're working. Alright, well, this is a little test experiment thing. I wanted to do a live stream on YouTube, but there's a 24-hour wait for whatever reason. And I also want to check the mics on this computer, check the microphone, make sure people can pick me up. I don't want to have to go buy an external one, but I might have to. And I've been wanting to do a live stream or a YouTube channel videos for a long time. One of the issues is I'm very self-conscious. I like food and I like eating, and I have a lot of health problems. So I've gained some weight. I've gained probably about 20-25 pounds from where I was, which is this is the biggest I've ever been. So I need to get that under control, get my weight down, and that was a big problem for me going and doing video, and I don't like seeing myself in this condition. I don't like seeing myself, generally speaking, and to see myself all puffed up and fat is it's not pleasant. And so anyway, that was one of the big deals that I had against video. I was like, well, when I lose the 50 pounds or whatever, or even just 20 or 30, then I can do the video. But I've realized now that what if I never lose the 20 or 30? It's been a while. I need to get out there, and I know I can do it. It's just I don't have the equipment here. Doing crunches with this body is really hard. And my favorite machine of all time, exercise machine, is a lifted weighted ab, weighted crunch machine, where you just sit. All you have to do is sit there, and you put the weight at whatever level, 100 pounds or whatever, and just do crunches. And you do it for hours on end. So you'll do maybe 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15, whatever. Take a break, go do some other exercise equipment or whatever's available, go for a walk, and then come back, do some more. And I would do that routinely, and that got me down to 195, which is great. And lose it. My target goal is 175. I didn't make it to that. That was a high school weight that I wanted to try, but that last 20 pounds was really tough to get off. But 195 is a good place to be for me. So hopefully we'll get back to that point. I'm here just enjoying the peace and quiet in my apartment. And like I said, I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I do art. You can see the art behind me. And ancestors of mine, and museums that I've been to, and stores that went out of business, where I inherited their signs and whatnot. And my grandmother's back up there. She passed away last year, but she lived a full life. And that's her father there. That is George. And his son, my grandma's brother, lived to be 101, which is pretty cool. I'm really into history, and so one of the things I need to get on, since the elders have been passing away, is to interview them, put interviews online, and I've done quite a bit of that. It's mostly just for me, and if other people are entertained by it or informed by it, which I hope they are, that's great too. One of my goals, one of my dreams, is to get to Europe. I've never been to Europe before. I don't have a lot of money, because I've had all these health problems and just issue after issue. It's been insane. I developed diabetes in when I picked up this last 20-25 pounds of weight. It pushed me into diabetes. So hopefully if I lose it, it'll push me out. That's what I'm hoping for. So I need to I've been exhausted the last couple of weeks for whatever reason. They finally put me on different medicines, so I'm feeling a lot better. And they got me on an injectable weekly, just once a week, where you're injected. It's not insulin; it's a different type of diabetic medicine. Because I hate needles. I don't like needles. I don't like, and the idea of poking myself with a needle is just, I just can't really get over that. Plus the way they did it, we did it in my leg, my right leg, and it just was a bitch. It was like, holy cow, it went in there, and it's just now healing up, and that was more than a week ago. And so it was, I think she plunged it in too hard, because the last lady, she just did it on my arm, and it didn't hurt at all. She just a little prick, and medicine went in, and it was fine. But on the leg, she really went in deep and created an injury there that was sore for a long time. So hopefully we'll do the other arm maybe next week, if we do it next week, and then hopefully my blood sugar levels will get all worked out, and I've got this dermatitis going on. My immune system's all out of whack, and so if we can get that under control somewhat. I don't think we're going to get it completely under control, because according to DNA testing that they've done, 23andMe is the one in particular. They did a health test and say I'm pretty much, for sure, they say, going to get this condition called systemic sclerosis, which I think has already started, because my joints I have tennis elbow arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis in my elbows all the time, that it just never goes away. And my knees are shot, my knees hurt, my whole body hurts. And I keep telling doctors this, and they drive me nuts. And because most of them don't listen. And I tell them about this genetic report, and they just ignore it. So I'm hoping to get, I've read these studies where if you get on these steroid pills, which I'm on right now for this allergic reaction, which won't go away, because I've been putting creams and lotions on it, and it won't go away. They're on my feet too, and I started putting this stuff for my arms, the dermatitis on my arms. I started putting that on my feet, and it worked. I've been going through months without my feet. I thought it was foot fungus at first, and then they said, well, one of the doctors was convinced it's dermatitis, and then he prescribed this lotion for it, but that made it itch even worse. So then another doctor decided, well, we'll try this other, try minoclone or whatever, I don't know how to pronounce it, who cares. But anyway, I had this stuff from before for my dermatitis, so I started putting it on my feet, and sure enough, it works. The feet don't itch anymore. And I wish some doctors would have told me that about 3 months ago, because I've been sitting here in my apartment and my feet have been itchy as hell. And it's insane. It gets an itchy where you cannot, it is insanely, it's like nothing I've ever experienced before, where it's insanely itchy and you just can't. So I would have to train myself, okay, you have to go take a shower and just clean your feet off, and then you put the water on, with the handle hose thing, and you wash your feet, and it itches. It gets in there and it itches like hell. But you can't scratch and you can't mess around with it. You just clean it off, wash it off, do that with the water, and then when I get out of the shower and dry off, it wouldn't itch for at least another 8 hours or so, 12 hours maybe. So that's what I was doing. But then eventually it would get into an itchiness where I just had to get in there and scratch it away, and so it would never heal. Finally, this this lotion stuff is working. So that's going away. Although it's taken a long time. Taken a long time to heal up, and I have these open wounds on 2 of my toes on my right foot that are just taking forever to heal. They've been draining out this clear serum fluid stuff. So we've got this alginate seaweed stuff that you put on your feet to absorb all this stuff. I've never had open wounds like this before, so I don't know anything about it. It was all news to me, this seaweed on your feet stuff. But it's been working. It's been drying it out, and they've been slowly drying, and it's a little more painful today, but I think it's because it's finally healing up, which I hope is working. And we'll find out on Friday when I go to the doctor what's going on. Anyway, so I wanted to get this started. I knew if I did not just dive in and take the plunge, then I probably would never do it. And so I realized I've just got to sit down, no matter what I look like, no matter how many extra pounds I have, and if I need to shave, whatever, I just have to sit down and do it. And I've been watching a lot of these podcasts and YouTube guys. Lionel's one of them, Joe Rogan, of course, he's one of the bigger ones. And Tim Pool is another one who I watch every once in a while. Sometimes they get kind of annoying to me, so I don't watch them too much. I really like Lionel. And Joe's okay. It depends on who he's talking to. Joe's okay. He gets kind of annoying too sometimes. There's a common thing. People annoy me. Most people annoy me. I can't stand people too much. Even my friends. And if I don't know you, if you're a stranger to me, I'm just putting you in the annoying column. So you're annoying to me until you can prove otherwise. And it puts people off. I understand that, but that's just the way I am. I don't have time to talk to people all the time and to be all lovey-dovey and get to know people and chat and stuff. That's not who I am. I'm not a girl. I'm not a woman. I don't chat. I know some guys are into that kind of stuff, but not me. And I just have a very low threshold for talkative, touchy, feely people. And I know women are into that. That's a woman thing, so I have to go along when women are around. And most of the women don't, I have limited contact, so they don't annoy the hell out of me. Some do. Like if I'm in an art class with someone, there are definitely people on my annoying list who I try to avoid. But otherwise, most of the people are okay who I deal with, who I know. A lot of strangers can be kind of annoying, especially with this mask thing going on. I'm out walking around, and I've got a little bit of lung damage, which I discovered a couple years ago. I don't know where that came from, how that happened. But I actually was in the doctor's office a week or two ago, and I was doing the mask thing, and she took my temperature for the COVID stuff, and it was normal, 98-ish. And then I put my bandana on, and I came back down, and I was putting, I'd remove it to get some fresh air and put it back on. Well, then my temperature was 100 when she tested me again, because I came back down and she tested me again. Because, I don't know, she forgot who I was or whatever, which is kind of funny, because I'll be walking around in this lab office, in this doctor's office. And there's a lot of doctors there and nurses, and there's 2 levels. And so I had to go upstairs to use the downstairs restroom was locked, and so I went upstairs to use that one. I came back down, and the front desk guy is like, "Who are you, and have you been tested?" And it's like, yeah, I was just here like 2 minutes ago, but I don't know what's going on in their minds where they just apparently forget who you are and what you look like. I don't know. It's very strange to me. So anyway, she tested me, and it went from 98 to 100 in like 5 minutes maybe. And I just have a hard time breathing with that thing on, so I have to take it off every once in a while. So I can let the, because it steams up and it's hot. I mean, I'm hot right now. So I mean, another condition I have is called hyperhidrosis, where like right now I'm sweating a lot. And it's not normal for a human being. And it's not because I'm not fat and all that stuff. It's because I have this condition called hyperhidrosis, which I inherited from my father. My father has it, my sister has it. They have more limited, I think, versions of it. My sister doesn't have it all over her body, just her feet, I think. And then my dad, when he's out working, I mean, he gets really sweaty. And me, I just sweat all the time. If I go out and exercise, I'm sweating profusely all over the place. If I'm doing any kind of work, yard work, whatever, even just going for a walk, I'm sweaty. Even just sitting here, I'm sweaty. So, and people don't seem to realize that I'm just walking around and I wear clothes now where you can't really tell that I'm sweating. Like I wear dry fit clothes, golf shirts. I'm always wearing golf shirts I go into these like Value Village or wherever, because these shirts are expensive, just brand new. And I will go through the racks particularly when they have a sale. I'm always on their sale days. And I will look through and I do a little moisture test on the shirts to see if it'll show up or not. So there are a lot of dry fit clothes where it will show up, and then there are some where you can't really tell that it's wet from sweat. And I remember I was in this water fight one time over at this person's apartment, and one of the gals goes, "Oh, your shirt doesn't change color when it gets wet." And sure, yeah, well, that's because I sweat. I didn't tell them, but that's because I sweat all the time. And so I have to wear certain clothes, and like sandals in the summer, so my feet don't sweat as much. I can only wear shoes for brief periods of time. That's recommended. Otherwise, it gets really bad. And I'm probably boring people, but anyway, these are serious, real medical conditions that most people don't know about. Even my doctors are just clueless about most of this stuff. They've never heard of things like this before. And see my mouth's all crooked, and just annoys the hell out of me. Just looking at myself. Anyway, the guy right behind me, on my left, I guess it is. I don't know. Anyway, that's a painting that's in Cleveland. One of my ancestors, like such great grandfathers. But thankfully, that image of him has survived, which I think is amazing. So one of the things that I want to do is about 1989, for some reason, I just got this bug, this obsession, just kind of hit me. I'm not sure exactly how it all happened. It was kind of a quest of who are you? Where do you come from? What's your background? What's your history? So I started asking, like my parents, first of all, well, what do you have on the family tree? What do you know about the family? So I started compiling the genealogy. And then I started asking my grandmother questions, because she was the only one around at that time. All of the three other grandparents had died, and I didn't really know any of them. And her husband, Grandpa Hill, he actually died before I was born. And then later on I learned that my other grandpa and grandmother, they babysat me when I was growing up. So I'm from late 70s, mid to late 70s in there. They were babysitting me, which I had no idea. And I spent, I guess, most of my early toddlerhood, I was born in Iowa, but I spent most of my time in Watertown, South Dakota, which I didn't even know about. And I went back to Watertown, I think it was 2013. There was a family reunion going to be in South Dakota, so I went early, and I met my mom's sister-in-law. She had been married to my uncle who had passed away. I had never met him, except probably when I was a baby. But I hadn't met him as an adult. But I met all of his kids and his wife, Rose, and some other relatives, and I started compiling things. And one of my dad's cousins took us around and goes, "Oh, you used to live there, and you moved over here." And I was like, "Whoa." Then I went and looked in the phone books, and sure enough, there's our address, our phone number. And I had no idea. I had grown up in this town for the first two years of my life. No clue whatsoever. I don't know how, it just never came up, I guess. It was just a kind of a given thing. So, anyway, it was fascinating to me to learn that I'd grown up in this little town. And it's a nice little town. For South Dakota, it's a city, but for me, it's, you know, a tiny little place. But it's the biggest place around there. And it's on the prairie, on the plains. And so the wind comes through all the time. And there was my first tornado warning that I remember, at least. It was in the courthouse, and this huge storm was coming through. And I was looking up old land stuff that my grandpa had been doing, because he had bought up all these houses in town. So I was just checking up on him, on his history, and on the history of the house where my mom grew up. So I was in the land office checking things out. And you get the radio was on, blaring these, you know, warnings or whatever. And the chatter was up about the storm coming. And I didn't really think much about it. I was just going about my business. And then eventually, I was there for quite a while, but then eventually they declared that they're closing the courthouse. Everybody has to go in the basement. We're going to lock the doors. So thankfully, I was like, well, I don't want to get stuck in a courthouse basement for God knows how long. And so I decided to run across the street. I had been over there before to the old library, which is now the Historical Society. And I figured, well, I probably have more luck over here being able to research and look through stuff and whatever in the Historic Society than getting stuck in the basement at the courthouse. So I darted across, I ran out the door, and, well, I didn't really run, but I kind of quickly went out before they locked everything. So they were in the process of getting everything buttoned down, so I made my escape and dashed out that way. Across, and the sky had darkened. You could tell when I was inside there that the sky it was like nighttime now. And it was in the middle of the day, and the storm was coming. So I darted across to the Historical Society and just made my way in there. They were getting a couple of other people off the street, welcoming them in to shelter there. And I was there as the storm came through, and then later on I looked at the radar and stuff. It was an amazing storm. I mean, it was pelting, all kinds of stuff. Trees were blowing over. There was a guy's truck out there that had just this huge tree over by the courthouse. There was this green space around the courthouse, and this big tree. And it almost took out his pickup, but it had just spared it. And it was pounding rain and all that for a while. So we were in there with these guys and the gal who was leading the Historical Society at the time, and everybody was friendly and talking about stuff. And just seeing the aftermath of that was amazing. And then I noticed, and they told me, okay, if ever you see a screen, the sky was almost light green, like kind of the Wizard of Oz or something. It was very strange and ominous. And someone told me, if you see a green sky, you know, there's trouble coming. So you got to find shelter. And sure, yeah, it was just this eerie. I took a picture of it, I think, on the phone or something. Didn't come out very well, but You could see the green there. The resolution was bad. But then I looked at the radar, and sure enough, you could see this wall. And they said there was no tornado in it, but it was straight line winds, I think, or something. And then later on, we went down to where my grandpa farmed and talked to Virgil and his wife. Let's see, was Joyce? I think her name was Joyce. She just passed away. Virgil died last year, a few months before my grandmother did. And I had never, I don't remember, I think I'd been out there as a kid, but I don't remember any of it. The only thing still there is the barn. So I was poking around and taking pictures and all kinds of stuff. And my dad was like, well, we gotta go now. And I was like, well, we've only been here a couple of minutes. The house is gone. And it wasn't much of a house anyway. There was no insulation. And I don't know how you could live in a house like that in the middle of winter in South Dakota where it gets 20, 30 below zero, and these windstorms and snow drifts and just insanity. There's no insulation on the house, and you're living there during the winter. It's just insanity to me that you could live there. And I guess you'd have to gather around the stove and just keep bundled up, and it's just something, you would see in Eastern Europe, which is where my mom's family came from. They came from Germany, Eastern Germany, which is now Poland after the war. And so I've met a lot of people through that, and I've found all kinds of records people are putting online, which is amazing to me. I never thought I'd find out the information that people put on there, because a lot of the church books have been destroyed, and there's a de-Germanification of that area as part of Soviet and Polish policy, just to get rid of anything German, which is unfortunate, because the area they were from, I've researched heavily, and I discovered that I think it was about the Germans didn't have a majority there, I don't think, in the town right around where they lived. And I think it was 40% German, 30% Polish, maybe 20, I can't remember, and about 10% Jewish. And I know that doesn't add up to 100%. I'd have to go in and look at the numbers and stuff. But I don't think the Germans had a majority. And there was a lot of minority groups, and the Jewish population, I think, was very big. There was a synagogue there, which got destroyed during Kristallnacht, and 38, I think that was. And I don't know who the agitated. I was trying to find out who were these people going around destroying all the synagogues. Who were all these thugs? Of course, I don't know if I'll ever find that out, but because you had this community that was cohesive, you had these various minorities. You had the Germans, the Poles, the Jewish population. The Kashubians is another minority group in that area, which is a Slavic minority group. And I just don't understand how it could turn all bad like that, except, especially in that community, unless there's outside agitation, outsiders coming in stirring up problems. What they did find a few years ago, and they created a memorial, a monument, and have restored some of what they found. I think they incorporated. What they found was the old tombstones, old gravestones from the Jewish cemetery. And so they started cleaning those up and rescuing them, made them part of this memorial in a little town, which I love that. Because there's a lot of, I know Polish folk will get upset with me, but there is a strain of anti-Semitism in Polish history too. And so I just would like to, I don't know how virulent that is now, but I don't want to castigate the whole Polish people. I like Poland. I like the Polish people. I like their food, the pierogies in particular. And so I don't want to, and I probably have some Polish blood in me anyway. So I don't want to castigate the whole scene there. And people now are not guilty for the sins of their forebears or their, that's just nonsense. Yeah, you're only guilty for the crimes you commit, not for people who came before you. And so anyway, that aside, I just love reading about all this stuff and learning about it, and I've learned where the little towns where my great-grandfather's dad came from, where he was born, and learned more about him and his wife, and, which I only knew their names. And her last name was somehow mistakenly transcribed, I think by my grandmother. She screwed up a couple letters or something. So we got that all corrected, and we got the family tree going back on different lines, much more filled in now, because my mom's side, that side of my mom's side has been neglected for a long time, because we didn't have access to any of the records. And there's rumors around that some lady somewhere has all the church books, and she just has them up in her attic or something, and she doesn't want people to, unless you know her personally, you probably can't get access to them. That's the story on the street. That's what they say. So who knows if it's true or not, and hopefully those books will not be destroyed or lost or anything if they really do exist. But anyway, that's one of my goals, is to get over there. It's just insane to me, this social media and the internet and everything, because I found a cousin in Poland. I've been writing this blog. I've decided, okay, I've got all these notes and I'm doing all this research, and I will often forget that I already researched a lot, and I already researched a certain area, a name or something, and then I'll go back and do it again. I caught myself doing this a few times. I'll go back and do it again, and then I look it up online, and I've already written about it on my blog. So there's so much material out there that I forget. That, oh, you already went down this road before, and this is what you concluded, and this is what you found, and the same is true today. But I did it all again, so I kind of confirmed my own decision. It's like, well, this must be what's true, and so I confirmed that again. Unknowingly investing a lot of time into it, but it's like, whatever. At least I put it out there on the blog. Sometimes I forget, and I'll go do it again. So that's why I do the blog thing, is I put it out there on the blog so I can remember what I did. That's mainly why I do it. Now, another thing, too, is for future generations. So if somebody else is looking at the same thing or researching a similar thing, they can go read about what I did. So I try and put as much detail into it about what I did and where I found things. It's very important what your sources are, so you can go back and find it again if you have to. Maybe there's more clues in there that you didn't realize at the time, or somebody else might be looking for something similar, and I can see there's a glare in my glasses, which is kind of interesting. And so anyway, you document it. You document as much as you can, and you give your source material. Because there's this book out there called A History of the Tids of Ohio, and that's that's Martin Tidd right back there, with his painting in Cleveland. And there's this huge book, and it's interesting. You can tell he's got sources in there, but he never sourced that material. So I have to go back and figure out, well, where did he get this from? And where did he get this tidbit from? And I've found a lot of his sources, but it's just easier if you go through originally and say, well, this is where I got this, and this is where I got this. What they call footnotes or endnotes, bibliography, and I'd have to look at that book again, but he doesn't do a very good job of that. He creates this kind of fictional dialogue between people, between my ancestors in that book. And you can tell a lot of it's just made up. But some of this material, you'll pull out a line and go, oh, okay, he's got to have a source behind that. He's got to have a source behind this, but he didn't document it very well. And through my research, I've realized, oh, okay, that's where he got that, this particular line or this paragraph. And I have learned quite a bit that way. Anyway, I've talked quite a bit already. So what I want to do is I want to get to a place where I can travel around and do research and point out history to people. Now it'll be history relevant to me personally because it has to do with my family, but it will also be history that connects to a wider history that affects everybody. So everyone in America, everyone really in the world. And then eventually I would like to travel around the United States and then Europe as well. We might have to intermix them. So I'll be going to Europe sometimes. Sometimes I'll be traveling around the United States or wherever it takes me. I might be going to Mexico to do some Mexican War things. And none of this is, I don't really want to put judgments on things. I just want to do the research. And then people can judge for themselves. Was the Mexican War worth it? Was it not a worthy cause? That's up to you to decide. And the historians, and you can read books about it. Now Grant and Lincoln, they thought it was an atrocity. They thought it was totally unnecessary war. Now Polk, President Polk, and his ilk, and the expansionists and the Democrats, they thought it was great, for the most part. So it's just a very interesting, these debates go on throughout history, they were debated back when it was happening, and they're debated now. And so I love this history. The Civil War will be a big thing, because I have a lot of Civil War ancestors. All, so far, that I've researched, have fought for the North. No Confederates, I'm happy to say. Although, there could be a Confederate mixed in there somewhere. We don't know. Some of the I have a couple of southern branches that I'm still digging material on. I have one of the guys who ended up in South Dakota, where my parents are from. He disappears from, I first find him in 1850 in Baltimore, living in Baltimore with his mother. He was born in Virginia. And then during the Civil War he disappears. I don't find him again until, I think, 1874, 1875, I think, in Kansas, in Missouri and then Kansas. He gets married in Kansas, and then they move up to South Dakota. Now, where he was during the Civil War, I don't know. So I don't think he fought, because I can't find him anywhere in the Confederate rolls or even on the Union rolls. So I don't know where he was, what he was doing, who knows. And I'm trying to dig more into where it came from in Virginia. I think it's Lancaster County, but I haven't been able to confirm that. His death certificate names his father and mother, Jacob Will and Elizabeth George. George was her last name. But I have not been able to find him anywhere. Now, Elizabeth is the name of the woman Wesley was living with in 1850 in Baltimore, Maryland, which, mind you, is where Edgar Allan Poe was. See, Edgar Allan Poe was one of I loved reading his, he was so dark and disturbed and all that stuff, but I loved reading The Telltale Heart and all this stuff. It really made an impression on me in English class. When I was in high school, I think, was when it really came. We would read these stories, maybe middle school, I'm not sure. But it became ingrained in me that this guy was a unique talent, And he lived in Baltimore when they were there. And died, I think, in 1848 in Baltimore. But anyway, it just fascinated me, all these interconnections. And that's another connection too, is that there's an old show called Connections with this old British guy, I think, from the 70s, I think. And somehow I got to watching that, and it's just fascinating. And that was like, well, there's all these connections in our lives, in history and science. Another connection is the 1893 Columbian Exposition, the World's Fair in Chicago. My grandmother's grandfather and her mom lived in Chicago during that time. And you have this serial killer running around. Eric Larson wrote a book about it, Devil in the White City. And I read that book and underlined it, and all fascinating stuff going on. Had all these. That's where Aunt Jemima first appeared as a character. Now another controversy today. And you had Edison there with the current war. That movie is about that time at the World's Fair. They were fighting over who's going to win the electricity debates. And I haven't seen the movie, but I know a little bit about the background. I think they were at the fair, showing off all their stuff. And then also you've got Triscuit. Yeah, Triscuit was big there. And just all these weird stories and intertwined. And just fascinating to me. So anyway, that's what I want to delve into. I want to go to Chicago. We want to explore the city, a lot of the Tiffany windows and things. There's a museum down in Florida, the Morse Museum, that has a lot of things from the 1893 Chicago Fair in a museum down in Florida. So I want to go there and explore that, the designs, what life was like, the big the first Ferris wheel was at the Chicago's World Fair in 1893. And so I want to go to Chicago, explore that, try and bring people, that 1893 city back to life for people. And another one on YouTube who I follow is called Bald and Bankrupt. His name is Benjamin. He's from London, a British boy who goes around. He married a Russian gal who later got a divorce from. But he fell in love with Russia. And so he's traipsing around Russia and Belarus and Kazakhstan and God knows where, Georgia and all those places. If it's a Russian area or formerly Russian, he would probably be there at some point if he hasn't been already. He is fascinating to watch. I love watching. He goes into the Chernobyl zone every once in a while because he has friends there, and he went exploring there one time, made friends with people, so he goes back every once in a while. And it's fascinating to watch. He just goes poking his head around and in places where I'm probably never going to go, and it's fascinating to watch. And he knows Russian and who knows what else, so it really helps him out. And I love watching his travel videos, his travel logs around the world. Anyway, he's been to a lot of places. I encourage you to check him out. Bald and Bankrupt on YouTube, should be able to find him. His name is Benjamin something or other. Anyway, he's a big bald guy, big tall bald guy. And his videos are great. And if you're into more political stuff, Timcast is another one who I watch occasionally. I like Lionel. If you look up Lionel Media, he used to be on the radio. That's where I first was introduced to him. He was on Air America, if you can believe that. And he has this quirky personality, and he had a quirky show. And that's what I loved about it, is that it wasn't your typical left-wing Mike Malloy swearing this and that craziness. It was just a quirky, weird show. It was like a comedy show on a left-wing channel. And I think it really pissed off all the leftists. I think Sam Cedar was especially He's especially annoyed that he had a show on Air America, which makes it even more amusing. But anyway, Sam Senior takes himself so seriously, it's just funny. But anyway, I don't want to get into politics and stuff, and I'm trying to get away from that. So, Ennio Morricone, I think that's how you say his name. I love his music. I've loved his music for a long time. Once Upon a Time in the West is one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite westerns. The score to it is incredible. I encourage you to check that out. Check out the movie. It has Jack Elam and Charles Bronson and Henry Fonda, Jason Robards. It's an excellent movie. The only the only issue I really have with it is Sergio Leone would let his actors speak. My mouth is so crooked it drives me nuts. Anyway, Sergio would let. Why is my mouth crooked like that? I don't understand. I just come off as weird. Now I'm drawing more attention to it. I love it. Anyway, I have to get beyond my issues and do the podcast. So you just have to bear with me. Anyway, Sergio would let his actors talk. He would hire actors from everywhere. So you have a Polish, a German, whatever, Italian, Spaniard, and Americans, of course, and Brits or whoever. And he would let them speak their native tongue for their lines. So you wouldn't necessarily have to know English or whatever language. And then you get this dubbing, so they would have to go back and dub over into English whatever line was said. And the lips do not match up with the English. So sometimes you get this really weird thing where they're talking and it just throws you off because you don't know what language you're speaking, but it certainly is in English. And even Lionel Stander, I think his name was, I think even some of his stuff is so screwed up, and I think he spoke English. I don't get it. It's like, why are his lips screwed up with the not mixing with what's been dubbed? And I don't know why. I guess it's a lazy man's way of making a movie, but it just does not look good. But the thing is, it still is one of the best movies ever made, even with that problem. And the score is fantastic. There's only one musical selection in there that I do not like from the score album, and there were a lot of scenes cut from that movie too. If you delve into it a little more, you can see there was Ed Wynn's son. I can't remember his name. Anyway, Keenan Wynn is in the movie as the sheriff, and he had some scenes with Charles Bronson's character that were cut out of the movie, which I don't know if they were relevant enough, but because Charles Bronson plays a Native American character, I think, and I think that was the play there, is that the sheriff is racist or something. Anyway, those scenes got cut out, him with beating up Bronson and putting him in jail or something. But it's an excellent movie. I recommend it. Another one is Silverado, is another good. That's Lawrence Kasdan, who wrote Empire Strikes Back. His more recent stuff is not as good. Dreamcatcher was interesting, but had some major flaws in it. Very conventional horror movie. Stephen King, I think, wrote the book. And his latest Star Wars stuff is just not up to par at all. And it's sad to see such a terrific writer and director just not pull it off. It's very sad. It's kind of like a second Lucas story where George Lucas, he's got this beautiful trilogy, and then he goes and basically destroys his own universe. And then Lawrence Kasdan follows in his footsteps. But anyway, we'll do more film commentary later, and we'll talk about scores and music and stuff. And I'm going to upload this to YouTube, and I hope you'll subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try and make this a regular thing, and hopefully you can forgive me for my puffy, fat face, which I need to get under control, and my crooked mouth, and the glare on my glasses, and the sweat, and the health problems, and everything else. And anyway, I hope you enjoy this video, and if you don't, you don't. Whatever. You don't have to leave nasty comments. You can just ignore me. You don't have to watch me. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to do anything. Just go on your merry way. But if you do like it, you can hit subscribe and notifications and stuff, because I'm going to start doing this on a regular basis. I should have started a long time ago, but as things are, I'm procrastinator extraordinaire. I procrastinate, and I procrastinate some more, and I procrastinate more, and I can't even pronounce it. Anyway, I will see you later. I hopefully will change this up, the art on the background from time to time, with various things that I'm working on, or I'll just show them to you. But anyway, I thank you for tuning in. This is my first YouTube video, my first chat, and it's been fun. I guess I do like talking to people I can't see, and people who can't respond. I like that. Anyway, I will see you later. Signing off for now. Please hit subscribe and notification button.